This is lesson 7.2, fractions, decimals, and percents, followed by lesson 7.3, using percent proportion. To write a percent as a decimal, divide by 100, or just move the decimal point 2 places to the left and remove the percent symbol. To write a decimal as a percent, multiply by 100, or just move the decimal point 2 places to the right and add the percent symbol. So for the first example, we want to write each percent as a decimal. So because we're going from percents to decimals, we'll be moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So it starts right after the 3, we move it 1, 2 places to the left, so we have 0.23. For B, when we move this 1 place to the left, we need to add an extra 0 to move it the second place. So we have 0.04. Same thing for C. Move it 1 place and then add an extra 0 to move it the second place. We have 0.007. And for D, 1, 2 places, this is 2.91. Notice that most of these percents are less than 1, or most of these decimals are less than 1, except for this last one. Because this was greater than 100%, the number written as a decimal is greater than 1. Alright, now to go the other direction, to write each decimal as a percent, we'll move the decimal point the other way. So for this first one, we'll move it 2 places to the right. 1, add a 0, 2. So that's 60%. Again, 2 decimal places to the right. 1, 2. So that's 571%. And again, a number bigger than 1 gave us a percent bigger than 100%. And move 2 places to the right here. 1, 2. We have 0.8%. Okay. And there are 2 sets of try it yourself problems. So go ahead and pause the video, work through those problems, make sure you show your work, and then when you're ready to check your answers, unpause the video and check your work. Okay, for these you should have gotten 0.78, 0.02, 1.26, 0.009, 1%, 391%, and 0.2%. Okay. Fractions, decimals, and percents are all different names that represent the same number. So we can always convert between these 3 different representations. They all represent the same number, 1/2, 0.50, 50%. These all represent the same thing, but they're just written different ways. So we always want to be able to convert easily between any 2 of these 3. So in section 7.1, we learned how to write fractions as percents using a proportion. But one other way that you can do this that might be faster sometimes would be to first express the fraction as a decimal and then move the decimal point to express the decimal as a percent. You can still do it the same way we did it in section 7.1, but sometimes this might be a little bit faster. So let's see how that works. So for example 3, express each fraction as a percent, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. Okay, so the first thing we will do is change this fraction to a decimal. And remember, to do that, we divide the numerator by the denominator. So grab your calculator and divide 3 by 8. So 3 divided by 8. And you should get 0.375. Well, once we have that as a decimal, we can now change that to a percent by moving the decimal place 1, 2 times, and that's equal to 37.5 percent. So the same thing for B. We do 8 divided by 9. And that should come out to 0.888 repeating, so we'll round that up to 0.8889. And then when we move the decimal place to change it to a percent, move it once, twice, and the directions say to round to the nearest tenth, so this will be 88.9%. For this, for C, we'll do 32 divided by 15. And we should get 2.133 repeating, so that will round down to 3. And we'll move the decimal place 2 times, and that's 213.3%. And the last one, 1 divided by 125, should give you 0.008. And when we move the decimal 2 times, 1, 2, we get 0.8%. Okay, so that's just a different method of changing fractions to percents. Sometimes that's a lot easier than setting up a proportion, simply because you can do most of this pretty much on the calculator. You're just changing the fraction to a decimal, and then most of the time you can just mentally move the decimal place over 2 places, as long as you're careful about making sure you're actually moving it 2 places and always moving it to the right. Alright, let's look at example 4. A baker said that 25% of his customers buy only bread, 2/5 of his customers buy only cookies, and 0.35 buy only pies. Which of these groups is largest? Well, in order to compare these 3 numbers, we're going to need to have them all in the same format. Now, it's up to you what format you want them in. I'm guessing that we probably don't want to change them all to fractions, because fractions are still difficult to compare anyway, even when they are all written as fractions. So whether you want to change these all to percents or change them all to decimals is up to you. I'm going to change them all to decimals. I think it's easier to compare those. So we have 25%, 2/5, and 0.35. Well, 0.35 is already a decimal. I don't need to do anything to that. 25%, in order to change that to a decimal, I know I just need to move the decimal 2 places, and that's 0.25. To change 2/5 to a decimal, I know I just need to divide 2 by 5. So on my calculator, 2 divided by 5 is 0.4. And now we just want to know which one of these is largest. So 0.25, 0.4, and if you need the extra 0 there to make that look like the other ones, 0.40 or 0.35, well, that one is the largest. Okay, and again, there are 2 sets of try-it-yourself problems for you to attempt on your own. So go ahead and pause the video, work through those problems, make sure you show work, and then when you're ready to check your answers, go ahead and unpause the video and check what you did. Okay, so for these you should have gotten 67.5%, 11.1%, 0.4%, 154.5%, and for 4A, this 14% was the larger one. Okay. At the bottom of the page, you'll see some common fraction, decimal, and percent equivalents. These are all ones that you should be familiar with already. You should have been strongly encouraged to memorize these in previous math classes. But if you haven't, you definitely need to memorize them now. These are ones that will just make things a lot easier if you can easily identify what fractions, decimals, and percents are equivalent here. So make sure that if you don't already know these, make sure that you commit these to memory just to make things easier on yourself, not only in this class, but also in future math classes. It's very, very helpful to already know these equivalents and not have to continually be changing them using your calculator or trying to do them in your head. So make sure that you know these. Okay, let's move on to lesson 7.3, using the percent proportion. At the top of the page, this is the percent proportion. A part over a whole equals a percent over 100. Now, some things to notice about this. This will always be in the same format. You will always have the part over the whole, and the percent will always be over 100. You can use this to find any of these three missing parts. One of these three will be missing in the problem, and you're just filling in the other two that you're given, depending on which ones it is, to find the third missing number. So the trick to these most of the time is just figuring out which one is the part and which one is the whole. And if you think about it, these should make sense as to which one is which. So let's do a few examples together. Number 1 says 20 is what percent of 25? And we see there what percent, so we know in this formula here, in this proportion, we are looking for the percent. So when we set up the proportion, we're going to put the percent is x, and that will always be over 100. Now what we need to figure out is which part is the part and which part is the whole. Well, it says 20 is what percent. So 20 will be the percent, that will be the part, of 25, and 25 is the whole. And usually in problems like this, where this is just a straightforward sentence like this, usually where you can find the word of will give you what the whole is, because it's some percent of the whole. Okay, and we solved lots of proportions in chapter 6, so this should be very easy. We're looking at cross products again, so these two give us 25x, and these two, 20 times 100, is 2,000. And then we will divide both sides by 25. We get that x is equal to 80. So because this asks 20 is what percent of 25, we would say that it's 80%. Alright, let's look at number 2. It says what number is 8.8% of 20? Well, not sure exactly which one of these we're looking for yet, but I do see 8.8%, and I know the percent always goes over 100. Well, now I need to figure out, am I looking for the part or am I looking for the whole? Which one's which? Well, what number is 8.8%? So this is the part that's 8.8% of the whole, which is 20. So I'm looking for the part, and the whole is 20. And again, that word of really helps you identify that if you're having trouble identifying which is the part and which is the whole. Okay, so now let's do our cross products. This is 100x. Then 8.8 times 20 is 176. And we will divide both sides by 100. And we should get that x is equal to 1.76. And this didn't ask for a percent, it said what number. So this is our answer. 1.76 is 8.8% of 20. And last one, 70 is 28% of what number? Well, again, not sure exactly which one we're looking for, part or whole, but I do see the percent, so I know that goes over 100. Notice in every single one of these, the very first thing I did was to put the percent over 100. This will keep you, hopefully, from mixing up the numbers. Because then once you put the percent over 100, whether it's something you're looking for in number 1, or a number you're given, like in number 2 or 3, if you've set up the percent part correctly, you just have to figure out which part is the part and which part is the whole. So you're not trying to place 3 numbers, you're only trying to place 2. So now look at the rest of this problem. We have 70 is 28% of what number? We see that of again tells us that what we're missing is the whole. 70 is the 28%. So 70 goes on the top, and the whole that we don't know, x, will go on the bottom. Alright, now cross products here. X times 28 is 28x, and 70 times 100 is 7,000. And we'll divide both sides by 28. And we'll get that x is equal to 250. And we wanted to know 70 is 28% of what number? Well, it's 28% of 250. Okay. And there's 6 try it yourself problems for you to try it yourself. So go ahead and pause the video. Work through those 6 problems. Be sure to show your work. You should have a proportion written for every single one of these. And then when you're ready to check your work, go ahead and unpause the video. Okay, for number 1, we should have gotten 75%. For number 2, 210. For number 3, 1,500. Number 4, 37.62. Number 5, 240%. And number 6, 65.025.